The Gardener and the Heiress, a forbidden's bloom. The Marcelli Estate stood high on the hill, overlooking the valley, its grand stone walls glowing gold beneath the afternoon sun. It was a place of power, elegance, and silence. The kind of silence that felt heavy, like a secret. Behind those walls lived Isabella Marcelli, the only daughter of one of the most influential men in the country. Her father, Giovanni Marcelli, was a man whose word could build or destroy empires. He ruled his world with an iron will, and his mansion reflected it. Immaculate, vast and surrounded by order. Every petal in the gardens was perfectly trimmed, every path swept clean, and every servant walked with measured steps. To outsiders, it was paradise. But to Isabella, it was a cage lined with roses. From her tall bedroom window, she could see the endless gardens stretching into the horizon, fountains whispering softly, lilies swaying in the breeze, and beyond them, the thick iron gates that kept her world confined. The beauty of it all only deepened her loneliness. Every day looked the same. Tea at 9, piano lessons at noon, embroidery at 3. Silence at dinner. She smiled when spoken to, laughed when expected, but her heart longed for something real. Something that wasn't polished, planned, or perfect. Then one morning, everything changed. She was reading by the window when she noticed someone new in the garden, a young man moving among the roses. His sleeves were rolled up, his hands covered in soil, and sunlight shimmered in his dark hair. He wasn't like the other workers, who hurried with their heads bowed. This man worked with quiet confidence, moving as if he understood the rhythm of the earth itself. For a long moment, Isabella simply watched. There was something peaceful in the way he touched the flowers, as though he was listening to them. That night, she couldn't get his face out of her mind. The next morning, curiosity drew her outside. She wandered down to the gardens, pretending to admire the lily until she was close enough to speak. "You take care of them as if they can feel," she said softly. The young man turned, startled. His eyes met hers, calm, dark, and steady. Then he smiled faintly. "They can," he replied. "You just have to listen long enough." Something in his voice stirred her heart. It wasn't just confidence. It was warmth. She had lived her entire life surrounded by people who spoke out of duty, never from sincerity. Yet here was a stranger who spoke as though the world itself had a soul. "Do you listen to them often?" she asked. "Every day," he said, returning his gaze to the blossoms. "They tell me when they're happy, when they're thirsty, when they're lonely." He looked back up at her. "Sometimes I think they tell me more than people do." She smiled faintly, unsure whether to laugh or believe him. "And what do they say now?" He looked around, his eyes tracing the rose bushes swaying gently in the morning breeze. "They're saying thank you," he whispered, "for coming to see them." Her cheeks flushed. She wanted to say something clever, but words abandoned her. Before she could respond, the housekeeper's sharp voice echoed from the veranda. "Miss Marcelli, your father requests your presence." Isabella turned, her heart pounding. When she glanced back, the young man had already bent down, returning to his work. But a small, secret smile curved his lips. That night she dreamed of walking barefoot through the garden, his voice guiding her between the flowers, whispering secrets the wind carried away. Days passed, and she found herself drawn back again and again. She learned his name, Luca Moretti, a gardener from a small coastal village, hired for his extraordinary skill with plants. He was quiet but thoughtful, and his hands, though rough, handled each petal with reverence. They began to talk, cautiously at first, about the roses that never bloomed the same way twice, about how moonlight made the white lily glow like ghosts, about freedom. "Do you like it here?" she asked one afternoon. Luca hesitated, cutting a wilted stem. "It's beautiful," he said, But beauty isn't the same as belonging. She looked away. No, she whispered. It isn't. Their conversations became longer, deeper. She told him about her mother, who had died when she was a child. A kind woman with laughter like sunlight. Luca told her about his family back in the village, where his younger sister still waited for his letters. She asked him once why he had become a gardener. He smiled. Because flowers don't judge. They don't care where you come from, or what your name is. They only ask that you care for them in return. Something in her chest tightened. I wish people were like that. They can be, he said softly. If you let them. It wasn't long before the household noticed Isabella's new fondness for the gardens. Servants whispered. Her father's advisor, Signor Bianchi, eyed her suspiciously during meals. The young mistress has taken quite an interest in horticulture, he remarked one evening. Giovanni Marcelli's knife paused above his plate. So long as she remembers her place, he said coldly. But Isabella didn't care. She was alive for the first time. Sneaking down to the gardens before breakfast, learning how to prune roses, laughing quietly when Luca's fingers brushed hers by accident. One afternoon, a sudden storm swept across the valley. The wind howled through the trees and thunder rolled like drums over the hills. Isabella rushed to the garden, heart racing. She found Luca trying to protect a row of orchids from the rain, his clothes soaked through. You'll be drenched, she shouted. He laughed. So will they if I stop. She ran to help him, holding the wooden stakes while the rain poured down around them. They were both dripping, breathless, covered in mud and laughter. When the worst of it passed, they took shelter beneath the great willow at the far edge of the estate, a tree so old its branches bent low, forming a green curtain. You shouldn't be here, Luca said softly, glancing toward the mansion. Neither should you, she teased. The air between them changed. The rain softened, and for a moment, there was only the sound of water dripping from the leaves. Luca reached into his pocket and pulled out a single rose, deep red, its petals glistening. For you, he said. Why? Because beauty belongs to those who understand it, he murmured. She took it carefully, her heart trembling. And what if someone sees us? He smiled. Then I'll say I was teaching you about roses. And if my father sees? His smile faded. Then he'll never let me near you again. Their eyes met, the truth between them unspoken but undeniable. Then slowly her hand found his. From that night on, the willow tree became their secret world. When the moon was full, Isabella would slip out of her window and walk through the garden barefoot, guided by lantern light. Luca would be waiting with stories about the sea, the stars and dreams that didn't fit inside walls. She began leaving him small gifts, a silk ribbon, a pressed petal, a folded letter written in trembling ink. In return, he left her poems on scraps of paper, hidden beneath stones or tucked inside the hollow of the tree. One read, "Even in darkness, your name blooms like light." Another said, "If I could, I would plant the sky with roses just to see you smile." Their love grew in secret, fragile, forbidden and utterly real. But secrets, like flowers, cannot stay hidden forever. One afternoon, Giovanni Marcelli returned early from a business trip. He decided to walk the gardens with his guest, a powerful banker named Lord De Luca, whose son was rumored to be a potential suitor for Isabella. As they rounded a corner, Giovanni stopped. There, by the rose beds, his daughter knelt beside the gardener, her laughter ringing through the air like music. Luca was showing her how to plant seedlings, his hands guiding hers in the soil. For a man like Marcelli, it was an unthinkable sight. "Isabella," he barked. She froze. The color drained from her face. Luca rose immediately, bowing his head. Inside, her father hissed. Now, she obeyed silently, her eyes glistening with tears. That evening, Luca was summoned to the study. The air inside was heavy, the curtains drawn, the scent of cigars thick in the air. "You have forgotten your place," Giovanni said, his voice sharp as glass. "You are here to tend my gardens, not seduce my daughter." Luca stood firm. "I meant no disrespect, sir. She came to the garden to learn." "That is all." "Lies," the older man thundered. "I've seen the way she looks at you. You will leave this estate by morning." Luca's jaw tightened. "With all due respect, Mr. Marcelli, love is not a crime." The words hung in the air like thunder. Giovanni's face turned pale with fury. "Get out before I have you dragged out." Luca bowed his head once. "As you wish." When he stepped into the hall, Isabella was waiting. Her eyes met his through tears. "Don't go," she whispered. He reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "I must. When will I see you again?" He hesitated, then pressed a folded paper into her hand. "When the roses bloomed twice," and then he was gone. Days became weeks. The gardens grew quiet. The willow tree stood alone, its leaves whispering her name. Isabella stopped playing the piano, stopped smiling. Her father tried to distract her with gifts and parties, but nothing filled the emptiness. Every night she read his letter beneath candlelight. "If love is a garden, I will wait for you where the roses never fade." The words burned in her heart like a promise. One moonlit night she could bear it no longer. She slipped out of her room, barefoot, her white dress fluttering in the cool air. The garden was silver under the moon, the flowers glowing softly as if guiding her path. When she reached the willow tree, she saw it, a lantern's faint glow beyond the gate. Her breath caught. She hurried forward. Luca stood waiting, older somehow, but his eyes just as kind. "I knew you'd come," he whispered. "I never stopped loving you," she said. He took her hand. "Then come with me." And so she did. They disappeared into the night, leaving behind the mansion, the wealth, the rules, and the silence. Years passed. Travelers spoke of a cottage far beyond the valley, surrounded by the most breathtaking garden in the country. Wild, colorful, eternal. The flowers never died there, even in winter. Inside the cottage lived a man and woman whose love had once defied a kingdom. Their laughter could sometimes be heard from the road, mingling with the hum of bees and the rustle of petals. When villagers asked their names, they only said, "We are the gardeners of hope." And in the heart of their garden stood a great willow tree, its roots deep, its branches strong, the same tree that had once sheltered them from the rain. Because some love stories are not written in books or carved in marble. They grow, quietly, beautifully in the soil of the heart. And some flowers bloom forever,